When Dr. Alice Reynolds had run out of options, the letter arrived. Sanctum, a private clinic lost in the backwoods, offered an unthinkable sum for a 6-month contract. Officially, it was to observe a small number of special patients with unique psychosomatic disorders. Unofficially, it was complete isolation, strict adherence to rules, and no questions asked. Desperate to pay for her sick sister's treatment, Alice agreed. The taxi left her at massive wrought iron gates. Sanctum looked more like a derelict monastery than a medical facility. Gothic spires, stone darkened by time, endless windows, many boarded up shut. She was met by the chief physician, Dr. Bartholomew, a man with the face of a wax doll and unnervingly calm eyes. "Welcome to Sanctum, Dr. Reynolds." His voice was silken and lifeless. "Here your science will encounter things for which it has no name. Remember 3 rules. Do not disrupt the schedule, do not ask the patients about their past, and never, you hear me? Never go to the lower wing after lights out." She was given a key to her office and shown the wards. The clinic was eerily, unnaturally silent. No voices, no TVs, not even the squeak of a cart. The patients, only 7 of them, moved through the corridors silently, like shadows, their eyes empty and indifferent. Alice's colleagues were 2. A weary orderly named Leo, who seemed afraid of his own shadow, and a nurse named Irina, a woman with a sharp, prickly gaze, whose devotion to Dr. Bartholomew bordered on fanaticism. The first day brought strangeness. Patient in room 213, Mr. Algernon, spent his days drawing complex geometric figures on his walls, whispering the same phrase. It doesn't like noise. It slumbers in the silence between sounds. When Alice tried to question him, he pressed himself against the wall, covering his ears, and screamed, "You'll call it." That same night, Alice woke to a sound, a quiet, vile scraping, as if someone was dragging something heavy and metallic over concrete. It came from the ventilation. She peered into the corridor. It was empty and plunged in darkness. But the scraping continued, slowly moving, as if something was crawling through the walls between the rooms. In the morning, she found long, thin scratches on the floor, right under a ventilation grate. A week passed. Alice no longer heard the scraping. But she felt it, a presence, something hanging in the air, heavy, unseen, and attentive. It reacted to sound. A door slamming shut made it flinch, and in those moments, a wave of icy fear would ripple through the building, and the patients would start crying softly. One rainy evening, one of the patients, Miss Pennyworth, had a hysterical fit. She screamed, convulsed. Alice and Leo tried to restrain her. In the chaos, someone knocked over a metal instrument trolley. The crash echoed through the entire F. An absolute silence fell instantly. Even Miss Pennyworth froze, her eyes wide with pure, mute terror. From the ventilation, from under the floor, from within the walls themselves, came a soft clicking, as if something was tasting the air. Then the scraping began. But this time it was loud, fast, furious. It was rushing straight toward them. "It's awake," Leo hissed, his face white. "Run!" It was too late. The corridor lights went out. From the darkness, straight out of the wall, flowing from the plaster itself, a shadow emerged. It was long and thin, composed of shifting darkness and multiple shiny, razor-sharp metallic tendrils that produced the scraping sound as they scratched the floor and walls. It had no face, only a sensation of insatiable, ancient hunger. The shadow lunged forward. Leo shoved Alice aside, yelling, "Don't move!" But he wasn't fast enough. One of the metallic tendrils, thin as wire, lashed out with lightning speed, wrapping around his leg and yanking him back. His scream was short, cut off by a choking gurgle. The shadow pulled him into the wall. There was no blood, no struggle, just a wet, squelching sound and the horrifying scraping, which intensified for a few seconds before beginning to fade. The lights came back on. The corridor was empty. There was no trace of Leo. Dr. Bartholomew appeared a minute later, his face impassive. "I warned you about the importance of silence," he said, looking at Alice. The keeper was disturbed. It required a sacrifice, a pacification. Alice, trembling, asked, "What is it?" "It is the reason Sanctum was built. We do not treat the patients. We feed it. Their silence, their fear, their suppressed emotions, that is what keeps it dormant. And an occasional scream, an occasional crash, that is a feast for it." Alice realized she was trapped in a place that was not a clinic, but a giant cage for an incomprehensible entity, with the patients and staff as its feed and keepers. The following days passed in oppressive, paranoid silence. Every step, every breath was calculated. Alice noticed that Irina would whisper into the ventilation at night, soothing, monotone mantras as if lulling a wild beast to sleep. She decided she had to escape. Using old building blueprints, she found a mention of an old coal lift leading from the lower wing to the outside, the very wing that was forbidden. On the night of her escape, she sneaked into the derelict wing. The air here was thick and dead. The walls were covered not in geometric shapes, but in spirals and chaotic gashes, the marks of the keeper's long-term presence. She found the lift. The rusty cage was still operational. But just as she was almost free, her foot stepped on a broken bottle. The crunch of glass sounded like a gunshot. The silence exploded. The scraping erupted from all sides at once, furious, frenzied. The lights went out. Alice panicked and started the lift. As the rusty doors began to close slowly, she saw the darkness itself, a swirling mass with dozens of gleaming, grinding blades, surge from the corridor's gloom toward her. The doors slammed shut. The lift clattered upwards. From outside came a furious scraping, scratching at the metal. But the lift held. She burst out into the cold night air, unable to believe her escape. Reaching the town, her first call was to the police. When the police arrived at Sanctum, they found the building completely empty. No Dr. Bartholomew, no Irina, no patients. No signs of a struggle, as if everyone had vanished. The case was closed. Alice tried to start a new life, but peace never came. She moved into a remote apartment, soundproofing the walls heavily. But last night, she woke to a familiar feeling, the sensation of something heavy and attentive hanging in the air. She froze, afraid to move, and then, from under her bed, very, very quietly, came a faint, distinct sound. A quiet, vile, metallic scraping. It remembered her. It had found her, and now it was hungry.